It is an honor to stand before you today as we take time to recognize our veterans for their unwavering service to America through our special Veterans Day Assembly. Veterans Day is a celebration of the men and women who have fought or are currently serving to ensure the rights, privileges, and freedoms that we have today. Because of their sacrifices, you have the ability to say what you like, dress how you like, and think freely, just to name a few. Your basic rights are guaranteed until you infringe the rights of others. For this, you can thank our veterans and active servicemen. Today we have two speakers, the first of which is the Congressman for Wisconsin's 1st Congressional District. We're fortunate to have Congressman Steil be here today, as he is slated to be at several Veterans Day events in the area. As many of you know, Congressman Steil came to Central earlier this year to speak to our AP U.S. government students about the workings of our government. Today he has a special message about Veterans Day and what it should mean to you. Congressman Steil.
How's everybody doing? Good? What an exciting day to say thank you to all of our veterans. We live in the greatest country in the world. We're the land of the free because of the brave. And while every day is a day to say thank you to our veterans, we take today, November 11th, as a day to specifically pause and say thank you to the men and women who've worn the United States military uniform that give us the freedoms and the liberties that we enjoy. Throughout our country, beginning in Concord and Lexington, as the battles for the country of the United States of America began, throughout all of those battles, men and women have stood up to fight for and defend our freedoms and our liberties. Wouldn't be that long into United States history, beginning of the Civil War, men from this region and this place in the state of Wisconsin joined to fight for the Union, the United States of America, and end the scourge of slavery. That battle would continue. Individuals from right here in Kenosha County would step up and fight in World War I. And at the end of World War I, November 11th, at 11 o'clock, a little over 100 years ago today, there was a pause and recognition of what would be called the end of the Great War. As we know, it's a wish that was never fulfilled as battles have continued through World War II, Korea, Vietnam, most recently in Iraq and Afghanistan. I remember when I was a young kid speaking with my grandfather, when I started to fully appreciate the sacrifice that all of our veterans give. My grandfather fought in World War II. He was ultimately in Japan and then in the occupation and eventually made it home somewhere in September of 1945. After the school year began in college. But through the GI Bill, he had an opportunity to go to college. And he went in for, I don't know how many of you have been to Camp Randall, which is where the University of Wisconsin Badger football team plays. That was an old Civil War camp where men from the state of Wisconsin would march and begin their journey in defense of freedom during the Civil War, but ultimately be a prisoner of war camp during the Civil War where Confederate soldiers were held. And at the end of World War II, as all these people were coming back and looking for housing, my grandfather was put up in effectively a tent and then moved as it got a little bit colder before they got full housing built into effectively what was a broom closet. And we were going to a football game. I was in 3rd grade and I was about so tall. And he was telling me that's the closet where we were triple bunked on both sides, 3 on the left and 3 on the right, with no ventilation, and we would leave the door open. And I was about in 3rd grade, I looked up and said, that must have been terrible. And he looked back and said, it was a heck of a lot better than Papua New Guinea, except he didn't say heck. But it's a recognition of the challenges that all of our veterans face in all of the difficulties that are out there. And that continues today. As you see the news playing out in Iraq and Afghanistan, during the bombing that occurred at Abbey Gate, which many of you are familiar with, 2 Marines from southeast Wisconsin, one from Kenosha County and one from Walworth County, were injured in the blast that occurred at Abbey Gate. One of them is a really good friend of mine. His father and I are very good friends. He's a 20-year veteran in the Marine Corps. And his son graduated high school about 16 months ago. I went to his high school graduation ceremony. And I talked with my friend after that occurred and said, walk me through this. And so he said, Bryan, I served 20 years in the Marine Corps, a master sergeant, and my son would call myself and my wife pretty much at the end of every time, every shift, and kind of walk through it. You guys have this, you can actually look at Google Earth, right? You can pull up Google Maps, you can see exactly where all these locations are around the globe. And so they knew where it was, and they knew he was regularly stationed at Abbey Gate. And so as the news broke, like you probably watched, he knew that his son was likely right there. And if you serve, or if you have a family member that served, or if you're one of the gentlemen or women sitting before us that has served, you know when there's an injury or a death in your unit, they go dark. What they want to do is make sure that social media is not informing people what happened. They want a proper notification. So I asked my friend, I said, walk me through this. And he said, Bryan, I stayed up all night with my wife holding her hand. And we knew one of two things was going to happen. One, we were going to get a phone call that our son was okay. Or two, we were going to have a car come up the driveway with the worst news a mom or dad could ever receive. At 5:30 in the morning, they got a phone call from their son that said, hey, I got knocked down. I'm not perfect, but I'm doing okay. Not everybody is. I love you. Goodbye. 13 families in the United States didn't receive that phone call. It's a realization of the risks that so many young men and women are signing up to serve our country, to defend our freedoms. And they're young men and women from right here in Kenosha County, Walworth County, and it may be many of you as you graduate from high school in the months ahead. It's an amazing calling because it's a calling to protect our freedoms and our liberties. Sometimes when I go back and forth from Wisconsin to Washington, D.C., you think, boy, you just want to almost pound your head in a brick wall with the job some days out there. And you think, what are we doing? What are we all fighting for? And sometimes I reflect on that, and I think about a period of time at the very beginning of the COVID pandemic. Remember, go back in your mind all the way to the very beginning. People were doing all sorts of stuff. Nobody knew how this was going to play out. People had like saran wrap on. Nobody knew what was going on with COVID. And nobody was flying. I know we got a Southwest veteran here, but almost nobody was flying on airplanes. I was coming in to the airport. I had to get myself up to D.C. And I came in. If you've ever been to the Milwaukee airport, you kind of come up a set of steps, and in front of you is a gate for maybe Delta or United, and to the left is Southwest. And there's nobody in this whole place. You could shoot a cannon through the airport. There's nobody there. It was like the zombie apocalypse. And I see at the far end in front of me, there is 6 people facing the other way with signs. I said, what the heck are they doing here? So I went up and I said, how do you guys all know each other? They said, we don't know each other. So you don't know each other, what are you doing here? I'm kind of looking back up at the signs that are in front of us. They said, well, our sons and daughters respectively just graduated from basic training in the United States Army. Just graduated from basic training in the United States Army. And I said, well, how far away are they from coming out? They said, well, the plane's here, they're not here yet. I said, I want to stay here and wait and congratulate them. So a few minutes later, they come out, they see their moms and dads, they embrace. They're 18 years old. They're maybe months older than many of you who are sitting here. And it was a reminder for me of what great people we have, what great communities we have, what a great country we have. Because when you meet young men and women, and many of you may make the same choice in the months ahead, when you meet young men and women who are signing up to join the United States military, as our veterans here did themselves years ago, you sign up not because of the past glory of our country, not because our country, the United States, had freedoms and liberties in the past. You sign up to defend the freedoms and liberties of the United States of America going forward. And so it's a reminder that although there's challenging times and you guys have navigated a high school experience during COVID pretty much like no other, not lost on you. And sometimes you turn on the TV and things are a little bit crazy. That although there's challenging times, when you see these young men and women who are signing up to defend our freedoms and our liberties, it's because they know what we all know, that our best days are ahead of us. That we live in the greatest country in the world because we have men and women who are willing to wear the United States military uniform, as the veterans before us have done, as many of you may choose to do, to defend us, our freedoms, our liberties, and our country. And so today, take the time to thank the veterans who are here with us, thank the veterans that you know and your friends and your family, and spend some time thinking about whether or not that's the right journey for you as you exit high school and begin the next phase of your life. It's an awesome day. We are the home of the free because of the brave. And today is a day to say thank you, and please join me in saying thank you to all of the veterans we have here before us. Thank you all. God bless.